Title: 3 Scary Stories for a Rainy Night. Story 1. The House at the End of Briar Lane. I used to deliver newspapers before school. This was back when people still expected a paper on the porch by sunrise, and my route started at 4:40 every morning. Most of the houses were close together, and most of the streets had lamps every few yards, so it never bothered me much. Except for Briar Lane. Briar Lane was a dead-end road behind a line of woods. The first 5 houses were normal: porch lights, cars in driveways, dogs barking behind curtains. The 6th house sat farther back than the rest. It was old, narrow, and always dark. The number was 14, painted in black on a white mailbox that leaned toward the ditch. My route sheet said the paper went in the mailbox, not on the porch. I liked that because the porch was too far from the road. One October morning, it was raining hard enough that the whole street looked silver. I rode with one hand on the handlebars and one hand gripping the bag of papers. When I reached number 14, the mailbox was open. Not just cracked open, wide open, like someone had been waiting. I folded the paper, shoved it inside, and started to pedal away. That was when I heard a knock. 3 taps from inside the mailbox. I stopped so fast my back tire skidded on the wet pavement. For a few seconds, all I could hear was rain hitting my hood. Then it happened again. 3 slow taps from the metal box. I told myself it was water. I told myself a branch had fallen. I told myself every harmless thing a 13-year-old can think of at 4:55 in the morning. Then a voice whispered, "Wrong one." I rode away as hard as I could. The next morning, I skipped the house. By the time I got home, my supervisor had already called my mother. The customer at number 14 had complained that the paper was missing. My mother made me go back after school and apologize. I remember standing at the end of the driveway with the afternoon sun behind me, staring up at that dark porch. The rain had stopped, but the place still looked wet. I walked to the mailbox and saw yesterday's paper inside. It had been unfolded. Across the front page, in thick black marker, someone had written, "Not this one." I never delivered there again. My supervisor took the stop off my route and told me not to worry about it. He said some people were strange. Years later, I looked up the address. There had never been a newspaper subscription at number 14 Briar Lane. The stop on my route had been added by hand. Nobody knew who wrote it in. Story 2. The Woman in the Baby Monitor. When my sister had her first child, she moved into a small rental house with her husband. The house was nothing special. 1 floor, 2 bedrooms, a narrow hallway that creaked when the heat came on. They bought a cheap baby monitor from a yard sale because money was tight. It was old enough to have a little black and white screen, and the picture flickered whenever a car passed outside. For the first few weeks, it worked fine. Then my sister started hearing humming. Not loud, not even clear, just a slow tune coming through the monitor after midnight. At first, she thought it was interference. Maybe another monitor in the neighborhood, maybe a radio signal. Then one night, she woke up to the sound of someone whispering. The monitor was on the nightstand beside her bed. The screen showed the crib in the nursery. Her baby was asleep. The whisper came through the speaker. "He's cold." My sister sat up. The nursery door was closed. The hallway was dark. She woke her husband and they both ran in. The baby was fine, but the blanket that had been folded over the chair was now tucked around him. My sister swore she had left it across the room. Her husband said she must have done it in her sleep. The next night, they set up an old phone to record the nursery. At 2:13 in the morning, the baby monitor hummed. On the phone recording, the nursery stayed empty, but on the baby monitor screen, a woman appeared beside the crib. She was not clear, just pale skin, long dark hair, and one hand resting on the rail. My sister screamed so loud her husband nearly fell out of bed. When they got to the nursery, nobody was there. The phone recording showed nothing. The baby monitor showed the woman turning slowly toward the camera. Then the screen went black. They threw the monitor away the next morning. For 2 months, nothing happened. Then my sister got a package with no return address. Inside was the same baby monitor. The plastic had a crack across the top, exactly like the one they had owned. There was a note taped to the screen. It said, "You stopped listening." They moved out before the lease was up. The landlord kept their deposit and told them they were being dramatic. 6 months later, he called my sister and asked if she still had the monitor. She asked why. He said the new tenants kept complaining about a woman humming in the nursery. Story 3. The last bus home. I used to take the last bus home from work every Friday night. It left downtown at 12:17 and reached my neighborhood a little before 1. Most nights, there were only 3 or 4 passengers. A tired nurse, a man who worked security, sometimes a student with headphones in and his hood pulled low. The driver was named Carl. Carl knew every regular. He never talked much, but he waited if he saw you running for the stop. One winter night, I got on and noticed Carl looked sick. His face was pale. His hands gripped the wheel too tightly. I asked if he was okay. He nodded without looking at me and said, "Sit near the front tonight." That was all. I sat 2 rows behind him. The bus pulled away. For the first 10 minutes, everything was normal. Rain tapped the roof. The heater rattled. The windows were black mirrors. Then, Carl skipped a stop. There was a woman standing under the shelter on Oak Street, holding a red umbrella. Carl drove right past her. I said, "Someone was waiting." He said, "No." I thought he meant the route had changed. Then we passed the next stop. The same woman was standing there. Same red umbrella. Same gray coat. Same face turned down toward the curb. Nobody spoke. Carl kept driving. At the next stop, she was there again. This time, she raised one hand. It was not a wave. It looked like she was pressing her palm against glass. Carl whispered, "Do not look at her reflection." Of course, I did. In the dark window beside me, I saw the bus aisle reflected. Behind my seat, where no one had been sitting, the woman with the red umbrella stood in the aisle. She was soaked. Water dripped from the hem of her coat onto the rubber floor. I turned around. The aisle was empty. In the reflection, she took one step closer. Carl shouted, "Eyes forward." I stared at the back of his seat until my vision blurred. The bus sped through 3 more stops. At each one, the red umbrella waited under the shelter. Finally, Carl pulled into a gas station, left the engine running, and opened the front door. He told me to get off. I asked, "What about my stop?" He said, "You already missed it." I stepped into the rain, confused and angry. The doors closed. As the bus pulled away, I saw every window fog over from the inside. Then, one by one, handprints appeared on the glass. Small handprints, large handprints, too many to count. Carl retired 2 weeks later. Years after that, I saw his obituary online. At the bottom, someone had left a comment. It said, "He was a good driver. He knew not to stop for me."